Oh, welcome. It's so wonderful. Today I have with me Tara Aldughaither from Saudi Arabia. She's talking to me, to all of us from Jeddah on the west coast of Saudi Arabia. So, ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome, Tara.
أهلا فيكي Kate. It's so nice to talk to you
It's
again.
wonderful to have you with us. Tara is a curator, an art curator, a researcher, and also a musician. And so we met a few years ago at the Arabic Music Retreat in Mount Holyoke College. And over time, Tara has formed a fabulous project that she's spearheading and leading forward called Sawt Asura, which is really an archive and a way of researching. It's going to be great, and it's in process, and it's all about Saudi women's music. So Tara, how would you describe Sawt Asura for an English speaking audience that might know a little bit about Arabic music?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. It's been always a challenge in the last 3 years since forming this platform to define and introduce this project because it's really multifaceted. But the shortest or most direct way I can, and most honest way I can define it, is a space in which to retrieve and document musical histories of women in Saudi Arabia and make it accessible to the public in participation of artists and researchers so that we can see this sort of private history from the eyes and the ears and the perspective of artists as well. So it's a very alternative method of research and documentation, but super excited to be experimenting with this. And it's yeah, I can say more, but I'll stop there.
That's fabulous. 3 years, that's fantastic. What, you started it 3 years ago. What
Yeah.
would you tell us has been the response to the project, and what is your reaction to that response?
Yeah. Well, the response of the project, which initially was being sort of, I guess you can say, advertised or marketed or just shared on Instagram, has been super positive. People from all kinds of backgrounds, including film, journalism, music, just academia, have been interested in what is going on, when they see these sort of short records of women performing music, whether that's traditional or modern. And my reaction has been to continue working because because the responsibility grows with every interest that there is, and also my reaction is to adjust the research method with the different responses that I get. So, for example, if there is a huge interest from the film community, which there has been, because
Wow.
obviously Sawt Asura means sound of the image, meaning that there's finally moving image records of women and not just audio records there,
Hmm.
like there has been historically. Then I start to think about, okay, how can this archive serve the film community? Um, if there's a response from the visual arts community, I think how can this archive uh, respond or serve the visual artists who are interested in this topic? And so it's a really generative way of organizing research, and it's really interesting. And there's no, set rules. It's just kind of like a give and take and an experimentation between myself as the guide of this research and people who are interested. So yeah, actually the response plays a really big role in the
Oh,
way
that's
it moves
fantastic.
forward.
It sounds like
Yeah.
I'm so happy it's very exciting to hear that all kinds of people from all different, you know, sort of backgrounds and
Yeah.
communication fields are really interested in this topic. That's really
Hmm.
super to hear,
Yeah.
especially the film industry. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So, what in your heart of hearts would be your ideal vision for this project going forward? at this moment in 2022, June. It
Yeah,
might
it's
change
changed.
next week, I know, but
It does. Well, you know, ideally, this is a sort of what where I am right now is having conversations with people who are invested and interested in this in what I started and want to be a part of it genuinely. And our conversations are really around how to create a think tank and a platform where the research is actually protected but also accessible at the same time. So,
interesting.
yeah, because these histories have not been publicized before, not because of anything other than the fact that media didn't reach these private areas or private spaces, as in visual media. But now, because there's a huge visual surge of creative output in Saudi Arabia with the vision and with the dreams and the creative energy that's kind of emerging, it becomes even more important for resources to be accessible, not to be institutionalized, not to be placed in one area and only accessible to a few, but at the same time, for the integrity of the story to be protected. So that is the challenge right now. And it
Mm,
seems that the best way to approach it is through formalizing a think tank in which a group of a group of stakeholders, let's say, who have enough experience and sensitivity towards this type of material can form agreements with different types of institutions, whether that's educational, governmental, commercial, in which resources are shared with the main goal of continuing to document and continuing to uh, hopefully and ideally reenact so that these folk, traditions don't die away. Because the best way for things that are old to stay new is for them to continue to be reenacted and reperformed. So to encourage this music and these performances to be learned and shared in different forms, whether that's through dancers, through visual media artists, through filmmakers, through singers, through musicians. Yeah, it's a big goal.
fabulous. Yeah,
But that's where it is right now.
I think of
Yeah,
the word revival, which is where you bring
yeah,
new life to something, right? And it has,
exactly.
it can go across. So that's really exciting. I love it. I love to think of those beautiful days blooming once again, like a flower that comes up every year. So hopefully, that's great. Um, so
Yeah.
what you talked about the think tank, is that sounds like your biggest project right now in the near future for your project?
Yes, it's right now I'm looking into what is the legal formation of a think tank and how to kind of register it properly. Because, if you asked me this question last month, I would have told you this is turning into like a content production commercial, like a profit-based archive. But with a little bit more conversations, I realized that that's not the right, perhaps not the most sustainable direction. So at the moment, we're just really taking our time. Myself and people who are really just friends and companions who care about the same thing, um, to try and form, the best like foundation legally for this archive to exist and to continue to and to also to hold legal partnerships with people. So that's going to take time because it's also part-time and really it's voluntary. It's voluntary what we're doing until that comes to fruition. Then hopefully there's going to be a sustainable and continuous operation with a full-time small number of employees, and things will just keep happening more sustainably rather than when there's an opportunity or when there's an institution that's interested in investing. So yeah.
Now, I know you've said this is great, and you've said in the past that several institutions have been interested in partnering with you on this project, and that sounds like you're not ready to do that yet, as you want to build this other groundwork. So it sounds like you're doing the right steps. So I wish you and the team a lot of luck. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me about the recent exhibit that you had at ITHRA in the Eastern Province. It was Eid wa Tahawid, You
Yeah.
said there was a great reaction. Tell me about what it was and how it went down.
All right, cool. So this is one of the really lucky and encouraging opportunities for Sawt Asura, where Ithra approached me to kind of take over a small space for the Eid celebration. So Ithra has always like a bunch of really big activities for children and families during Eid. And for anyone who doesn't know, who's listening, Ithra is a large multi kind of يعني it's a culture, it's a world center culture, world culture center with museums and a huge library and a theater, and it's a really special kind of space in this country because it has all kinds of cultural activities. So they approached me to occupy sort of a small space for that event, for the events of Eid. And the agreement, luckily for me, was that if they agreed to commission more research, then we would do it. So basically, they were like, "Of course, go ahead. We want more knowledge to be produced." And what I proposed was to focus on researching some lullabies and songs that connect mothers to children.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, in the Eastern Province, because the Eastern Province also is sometimes ignored, like in the cultural kind of arena. Um, it's not really trending, so, and it's where I was born and raised. So I thought it would be important to kind of like look and learn a little bit more about that area. So they agreed to that, and I focused on the two most important kind of cultural landscapes in the Eastern Province, or the most prominent, which are Qatif and Al-Hassa. And I worked with artists who are very close to their communities in Qatif and Al-Hassa. And that's actually a policy in Sawt Asura that anybody who wants to engage with this research has to research in the locality that the community and themselves are actually connected. And
Marvelous.
luckily I had, yeah, so that it comes from, the story and the narrative comes from the actual place, and not from, like anyone coming into research. Sort of, even for me as a Saudi, I mean, I don't know enough, and we don't know enough about our the fabric and of culture and music all in the country. It's such a huge landscape. So luckily I have friends in Hessa and Qatif, and they started to research, and we recorded, well, the beautiful artist Ala Al Haji, who I worked with, recorded over 21 lullabies. um,
Wonderful.
yeah, and that's only specifically in the area that she lives in, Al Hessa. So imagine there's a lot more. And my
Wow.
friend Razan Al Yusuf, whose family lives in Qatif and she lives in Khabar or Dammam, recorded three sort of traditional kind of songs that are sung around Eid time. And luckily we also got in touch with another visual artist who is important in Al Qatif, but people might not know about him in Khabar and Riyadh or Hessa. And we actually found a painting that describes one of these traditions that
Oh,
was painted
fabulous.
7 years ago. Yeah, so it was a mix and match of research and conversations that formed a story about the connection between mothers and children during these occasions, these folk occasions in that area. Um, so yeah, we ended up with, let's say, one, two, three, four artworks. And sorry, actually, much more, because the research expanded to include some artists in Al-Hijaz. So an artist from Medina got involved, and our friend Dr. Hind Baghafar, the expert in cultural heritage, got involved as well. And she started telling stories about Eid in Hijaz. So actually, the exhibition was looking at the differences between the West and the East Coast in the end. It didn't start off that way. It started off just with a focus on the Eastern Province. But the client, or Ithra, really was really interested in having more. So we actually expanded the research eventually, and it became, here are some examples from the West Coast and the East Coast of mothers and children's songs during Eid. And
Wow.
yeah, like in a really incredible mix of materials, interviews, paintings, um, uh, oral history, studio recorded music. I mean, actually, it was really, really incredible, and people really, really were touched when they entered
Bravo.
this.
Bravo. That's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And was it good attendance?
I mean, the first day there was over 10,000 visitors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So the response was, you were happy with the response.
Yeah, super, super happy. I mean, they were coming to visit Itra in general, but the line for that one exhibition between all of the other things that were available was very long, continuously from the first day till from the beginning till the end of the day. So I'm imagining that the attendance continued as such in the next week, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
still on. So there's a lot
Oh,
of, yeah, 3 months.
so it's still up. And so it's
Yeah.
up there until like another month or so, or how much longer will it be there?
It was meant to be until another month, but just today I got a request from ITRA to extend it to the end of the month because of how good the reception is from the people. So
Well, that's
alhamdulillah.
really fantastic. And it must be very encouraging to you
Yeah,
that you have even more interest from the general public in this.
absolutely.
You know, wow, congratulations. It sounds like great. I wish I could go. It's just, I can't just go on Zoom, that's not possible. So,
I, I really wish you were there too, okay? And you know what? I'm gonna send some. I'll try to make the videos available on the archive very soon, so that at least the material is accessible, even if it's not in the space that was curated by, I have to say, a very good friend and also an independent studio partner, Noura El Mallouh, who runs Kham Studio, and that's a locally produced design studios, and it was really beautifully responded to. And I made it a point to work with someone who was going to design the exhibition from the perspective of a Saudi, and it was just really, really beautiful, and a woman in specifics.
right. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. Wow, that's
yeah,
fabulous, fabulous.
yeah.
Okay, so you are a vocalist, a musician. I see behind you Fibiano. You have a piano, and I wondered how this project and the response, and as it's developing, how has it affected you as you pursue your own musical research and knowledge and practice?
Thank you so much for this question. Actually, for me, this is the heart of the whole project because, unfortunately, there was a mis kind of interpretation of where of a woman's voice, and like there's a lot of shame in the last 20 years in Saudi before all of these beautiful changes started happening. So the actual reason why I started this project is um, to actually create historical determination for myself, and to have a reason, a historical and this is why history is so powerful. Or let's say in this particular experience, her story. I know it's cheesy, but it really is her story. It's not his story in this experiment. This is her story, and yeah, it's
I
cheesy,
love
but
it.
it really, really
I hear
works.
you. I'm with you. I'm totally with you on
Yeah,
that, obviously.
yeah. I know, obviously. I mean, you actually, Kay, were the first person to introduce me to her story, and that was the story of Tuha and Ibtisam Lutfi when we met in the classical Arabic music retreat 4 years ago. I don't know. How long has it been? It's been before
Yes,
COVID. Yeah,
2018. Yes, salam.
2018.
Yes.
And that moment was really important for me because to know that there is actually a history that
Mm,
is not celebrated uh, is a missed opportunity, because if we know more about all of the women who have actually tread this path, which is to to live as an artist, to live as a musician, and to survive off of that. And that these artists are called, like they say about them, يجيبون الفرحة, they bring the joy. So these stories have to continue to exist because In the modern day, women from my generation who were born in the 90s, we were cut off from this knowledge or from this information.
Hmm.
And our interactions with fananat have been, or artists, musicians, female musicians, has been very distant. There was a gap between us psychologically, emotionally, intellectually that occurred in such a short period of time. It wasn't really like that for
Yes.
historically,
Right.
right? And to kind of tell that story that it was not like that really encourages myself and a lot of other women to empower ourselves to actually take that path that we have been told is difficult, is you know, like any artist anywhere around the world, is not going to get you money, it's not going to help you survive. It's the struggle of every single artist, but with a particular story here in Saudi, which is, you know, being a female and having a powerful voice. So it's really, really this project really helped me become more determined about being a musician. And and now the challenge is how to continue to uphold that responsibility of this project that I created, and how to share that responsibility and not just have it on my own shoulders,
Mm.
um, and how to share my voice. So recently, I've been learning some of the old songs, not necessarily the ones that are recorded, not yet, but just as a first step to learn some of the classical songs and reintroduce them to the public in a contemporary format, and just to experiment to see how do people respond to that. So it's just another experiment that is more physical, more visceral, more theatrical, but it's an extension of this project, really, where I'm actually present and not behind a screen or behind calls and meetings and administration and things like that. So hopefully that project, the musical project, is an ensemble, and we're in the moment choosing the songs that are to be introduced to the public. Step by step, we'll see what happens and how the reactions to that are. And then hopefully things will just kind of holistically land in one sensible definition.
Oh gosh, that's so wonderful. Well, best of luck, and I think I'm so
Thank
happy to
you.
hear that. And
Thank
I
you.
am going to ask if there's any chance that you might be studying the oud at some point.
Oh. تعورين قلبك. Um, yeah, you know, that one is a big question. I've had that in mind for since the Arabic music retreat. Um, and it really requires time.
That's
Uh,
true.
yeah, so I need to kind of prioritize that as soon as I'm settled, because at the moment, the way that the this is very exciting moment in Saudi is working is that practitioners such as myself, we have to move around a lot between cities, and you know, a lot of things are happening in Riyadh. But hopefully, يعني,
You mean in
as soon
like
as I
the
settle,
cultural scene and the cultural scene
yeah,
organizing and trying to produce and curate and everything? It's sort of like
exactly,
what
precisely.
we say all hands on deck. Do you know what that means? So it's all hands on
Um,
deck.
yeah, exactly. All hands are exactly. I'm required in that field at the moment, and it's very, very demanding. I have to say, it's not a secret. Everybody knows. Everybody who's in this field knows that it's incredibly demanding. At the moment, we're building um, really foundational infrastructure for this, and I am one of those people that just happen to have studied the thing that is required at this moment, which is curating, you know.
It's
Otherwise I
incredible.
would have been just doing oud or just music. I really, you know this, I mean, I would have been just doing that. But it is honestly, this is one of those kind of also classical tales of, you know, you have to decide when enough is enough and really fully go full throttle towards your passion, and I'm really hoping that that happens soon. But I am encouraged by other women who are learning the oud at the moment, and or relearning the oud, even, you know, from older generations who have dropped it for a period of time and are bringing it back now.
Oh, in
Yeah,
Saudi, في
yeah,
المملكة يعني. Very
yes,
good. That's the
yeah,
the little piece of news I was really hoping to hear, because to me that everything depends. For the old songs, you have to have the mutriba with her oud, the singer with her
Absolutely.
oud. So I am just so happy to hear that, and I wish you all the best. I don't, there's a time for everything, and
Yes.
sometimes the fact that you were all trained as a curator just at this exact moment,
Mm,
seems like it was meant to be, and it's a wonderful thing.
yeah.
And I just wish you all the best with all your various projects, and especially with
Thank you.
Sawt Asura.
Thank you.
I don't want to keep you further, and this has been so delightful, and I hope we can chat again as things progress when you've got news. More news, plenty of news already, but is there anything else you wanted to add that I didn't dwell on or ask you about this?
Well, I want to add that really and always I want to add this. This is a continuation of work that has happened before I was born. And that includes women like Dr. Hind Baghafar and women like yourself, Kay. And I really
Ya
hope
salam.
that, yeah, wallah, it's true. يعني, it's a chain of passion and a baton that's handed, and it's always going to be handed. And I really, really want to emphasize that because يعني, each one of us has to play a part in the way that we preserve our histories as women, as musicians, and as people who really care about folk culture, just
Yes.
in general, and indigenous ways of knowing. And I really, really love and appreciate this connection that we have. I just wanted to add that. So
Oh, you're
thank
so
you
kind.
for your
Same here.
support.
It's very special to me as well. And I am just so thrilled that you're finding a great reaction on the ground. And it seems like, sometimes you drop a seed on the earth and it just sits there for years. And then all of a sudden the right things happen and it starts to grow. And you appeared for this idea right at the right time. And, God willing, inshallah, it's going to be a very beautiful thing. It already is. So, and I think you're the perfect person to lead it as well. So I wish you all the best, and I'm so happy for you, for the culture, and because you've done a great job reaching out to people like Dr. Hind and Tuha and Safiya Shtewi and all, so many others in academia in
Raya Gabel. Let's
yes,
not.
Raya Gabel. Oh my gosh, yes, and also in the cultural scene, it is a difficult but important path, and not many people can do it. So I think you're absolutely perfect, and best of luck, my dear. So if we will check in again, and I hope you have a wonderful summer and continued good work. Good luck with the project, and keep us informed. We'll chat again, inshallah, I hope. Anyway, thank you so much. So, Tara, are there any female singers now in Saudi Arabia that you like, and why? Who are they and why?
So at the moment, my rock star is Khadija Mu'adh. And the reason why I'm really, really kind of I admire her is because she comes from the trajectory, the classical trajectory of a singer, which is, a wedding singer, entertaining at weddings, covering old songs, covering songs on the radio, songs that have been written by mostly performed by men. Um, but she had a very strong emergence publicly from that private wedding area to the public as soon as concerts started to open up again in 2017. And she was very honest and kind of in her interviews in the beginning when she was starting to be interviewed about how she's trying to take her time to also create and write her own music.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so for me, that's a rare, يعني, that's a rarity at the moment to find a wedding singer who also wants to write her own music. That used to happen in the past,
Right.
as you know, but nowadays you don't see that happening anymore. So that in that color, in that tone of Khaliji music, for a woman to claim publicly in an interview that I'm writing my music and I'm taking my time, I'm not going to be under pressure. For me, that's a huge, symbol of bravery, honestly. Khadija Mu'ad, yeah, I would really check her out. She has a powerful voice, a powerful presence,
Hmm.
and very confident and not afraid of yeah, of the power of her voice, really.
Oh, that's great. And did she said
Yeah.
is she in Jeddah?
I think she is Jeddah born.
Hmm.
However, now because most of the events are happening in Riyadh, I'm not sure if she moved to Riyadh, but most artists are going to Riyadh for all of the big events. But yeah, I think she's a Jiddawi. Yeah,
Okay, so but it sounds like she has all kinds of opportunities around the country right now.
absolutely.
Oh, that's
At the
fabulous.
moment, there's opportunity for artists and musicians that unlike ever before.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's so exciting.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing us your favorite